So I have a little bit of a history with Donkey Kong Country. I used to play it all the time growing up as a kid. You know, it was like my one of my first major introductions to Nintendo games. Prior to this, I was actually a PC gamer and stuff. So this was my first Nintendo game on their SNES that I had been gifted back then from a family member and stuff. So I wasn't used to platformers. I had played like a lot of first-person shooters and stuff, and as a consequence, I wasn't terribly good at these games. You know, I got better and stuff. As you can see me running through this first level here, I'm just going and I'm picking up the extra lives and jumping from treetop to treetop, and a lot of people seem to think that I was speedrunning this, and it wasn't the case. I was just playing the game as I normally played and stuff. I'd gotten used to it for such a long time that I naturally just moved fast throughout the levels and stuff. So these beginning levels are really easy. I'm just sitting here writing Rambi and stuff, and we're just going through the level and completing it. And these beginning levels, I mean, they're fun and stuff, but they don't really hold my interest as much as they used to. I think these beginning levels serve very well when it comes to teaching you like base mechanics of the game and stuff, like rolling and roll jumping and using ropes and things like that. When I had started doing these initial long plays and stuff, I had gotten the request to just do it with no audio, because a lot of people wanted to sit there and use it to sleep. They wanted gameplay to sleep to in the background and stuff. So my initial runs, I actually had no commentary whatsoever. It wasn't until people had requested it that I said, okay, yeah, we can go ahead and do that. And it wasn't so bad, I don't think. But no, I had actually gotten a request to start doing long plays a while back. I was traditionally doing short form clips up until that point. You know, I was just going and I'd do like a 30-second long movie or like a minute long movie, and I would just go and port it and be done with it, essentially. So it wasn't until a little bit later that somebody had brought up, you know, hey, you know, when are we going to get longer games and stuff? So I thought about it for a while, and I was like, okay, you know, we can literally sit down and we can do this. You know, like, how do we go about doing it? So I decided to start tailoring things and getting it ready for recording and everything else. Like, I did all of this on a, strangely enough, a 2012 Mac Mini. And I was like, okay, well, how do I screen record on a Mac Mini? I have more than enough horsepower for it. So I learned that I could screen record on it, and then a lot of these games are being ran off of a cartridge on an emulator, because I have like a little dongle that I can hook my cartridges up to a PC or Mac with and just run it directly off of that. So I had thought about it for a while, and I had worked on setting up long plays for a bit, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to see if I like long plays, and I decided to test it out and stuff. For these initial recordings, I actually had no volume whatsoever. The way that I had to set it up at the time, I learned that with Mac computers, Apple does not like it when you do screen recording using QuickTime, and they don't like to have any sort of audio recorded for some reason, so I had to do a lot of finagling and a couple of third-party apps to actually get it rolling, but the consequence was that I had no audio whatsoever, just none. You know, so when it was recording, it would have audio, like I could go back, stop the recording, and then go and double check it. It would have audio, but my television itself that I actually used to run the rig on, it wouldn't like give me any audio while it was running, so I had to do all of these games without any sort of audio until I started playing around with the MIDI app to actually be able to get it to do a little bit of pass-through. So these initial recordings I did without volume, like at all, and it's like really hard, I think, because with a lot of these old-style platformers, you know, a lot of it is sound-based, especially like with bosses later on, because they'll go ahead and attack off-screen, and your only warning that it's coming is the sound, essentially. So I wound up doing all of these recordings, all of these initial recordings, completely deaf and almost completely blind, with my vision being like 20 over 1100. You know, it's just really, really hard to see much of anything. So we have this swimming level here, and you know, the underwater levels, I always really liked them as a kid and stuff. They were really fun, but I find now that I'm older, I kind of struggle with it a fair bit because a lot of this has a tendency to blur together. It's like either a green blur or a blue blur, and with my vision being such low definition, I kind of struggled with a lot of it, I think. So in these long plays, I blatantly point out that I'm going to die a lot. And it's not generally a lack of skill. I mean, if I was sitting right up close to the TV that I have, you know, I'd be able to see it a lot better, but when I'm recording, I'm relegated to moving to the back behind a desk and stuff. That way, everything for the computer is literally right there, and even on a 55-inch TV, you know, as soon as I'm more than 4 or 5 feet away, I can't really see that. You know, my vision's just like really, really bad in that regard. So I die typically a lot during these games and stuff, you know, and it's because I kind of struggle with it. Like, normally right about here, you know, you see like fishes and octopuses and stuff, and I have a hard time with it. A lot of it is based around my memory of how well, you know, I was able to do this when I was younger and stuff. You know, you get that muscle memory going and you say, okay, well, you know, okay, I need to jump here, or I need to take this route, that route, whatever the case may be. If I didn't have the memory, I don't really think I would be playing these games quite as well, per se. You know, like, I don't think it would be as enjoyable and stuff. It would probably be a borderline frustrating experience. So this level in general focuses a lot around barrels and stuff, and so a lot of the barrels, you know, when you go to get shot out of them, any of the ones that are rotating, they typically have a tendency to have a white line around the rim of it, sorry. And so what generally winds up happening is they're expecting you to follow that white rim. And so with these barrels, it's not a problem because all of it's automatic. But I found that as the game goes on for sections like this, it gets harder and harder. A lot of it is down to timing and stuff because the shadow of the barrel blurs out so hard that I can't really see that white rim on it. So like right here, I know that I'm doing okay because it's like they're only going to point in one direction. They're not going to move too much. And so the level's a little bit easier than levels that we're going to have later. So my vision has largely impacted pretty much every facet of gaming to me, and so even the bosses are kind of a pain. This guy, the only reason that I know that he's coming at me is because I have the timing down pat. It's mainly down to like a 1-2-1-2, but I can't really tell how fast he's going because he has a tendency to blend in with that yellow haze in the background, which when I was younger I do believe it was bananas. It's like just a ton of bananas left and right. So we're moving on to the monkey mines, and these ones aren't so bad. Again, a lot of it is just timing and stuff. This is actually one of my favorite areas out of the entire game, you know, because they're just like really, really fun to do, and this has a tendency to blur into one giant brown haze a lot of the time, so a lot of it is like, oh, okay, well, we need to go and, you know, jump here, jump here, jump here. You know, a lot of it is just memory and timing and memory and timing. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't. So, you know, as you can see, I missed the barrel the first shot around, had to bounce off and get it again, but, you know, it's not so bad. It's not the worst thing ever, you know, so a lot of it is like, okay, well, I recognize this pattern, you know, I can jump here, and then sometimes with these little animal pieces that are guarded by enemies and stuff, I kind of struggle with that as well. You know, sometimes I get hit by the enemy, sometimes I don't. So with Minecart Carnage, a lot of it is greatly based around how well you can keep track of time. Because with everything looking like a giant brown haze, you kind of sit there and you're like, oh, okay, well, I can't really see much, if any of this. You know, we're going to go ahead and try to jump anyways. And so a lot of it is like, okay, I'm far enough along down the track, you know, at 40 seconds I'm going to have to jump, and then at 45 seconds I'm going to have to jump again. So a lot of it is literally keeping time in your head, trying to figure out, you know, where to jump, where not to jump. A lot of the time I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong, sometimes I jump too soon, other times I jump too late. As you can see right there, jumped way too soon. And so it's a fair amount of a challenge because the background, well, the environment in general is just this really kind of heavy brown color, if you would. And so it kind of blurs together after a while, so a lot of it's like, okay, well, obviously I got hit, I'm going to have to adjust the timing for it, like a split second or a second or two later, just to make sure that everything's functioning as it should and being able to get through the level and stuff. And a lot of these crocs that are in these minecarts here, they give me a run for my money because I can see a little bit of the green. Like I can see enough of it for it to have a signature, so a lot of the jumps are really, really late and stuff, and so it's like just jump, 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 wait for a green blur, jump, jump, it's a hard thing, like you can still game, it takes a large amount of time to actually go and do it, and that's why these videos are so long. Like when I recorded the first 5 videos, all of them were really, really long because I die a lot and stuff. And so Bouncy Bonanza is another good one, but it has issues with its color palette again. We see like a lot of muted tones and stuff, and this one everything looks like really tan right on down to the enemies, so a large portion of it revolves around how well I can track motion. It's like, okay, well, it's brown, it's brown and it's tan, but how well can we track that tan blob that's like jumping up and down or side to side or anything like that? Sometimes I get lucky with the bonus rooms, but again, you can do that with timing as well. It's a little bit more strict, but it's definitely something that you can do. It's hard, but it's doable. So I get lucky with the bees here, I think, because they have like that off blue, off green kind of look going for them, and it's not too bad. I like it and stuff. It's easier to identify, and then for the platform, again, it's down to timing. Like a lot of this game has like really, really specific timing and stuff. A lot of these older platformers do. So you can actually go through the level damn near completely blindfolded just by how well, you keep time in your head. So I kind of try to grab the frog whenever I can. Like he's a nice shade of green and stuff, so it makes it a little bit easier to see where I'm at. I struggle with the tires a bit. I know when I did my first run of Donkey Kong Country, I failed this area pretty damn hard because I hadn't played the game in quite some time and my timing was off. Eventually, I had gotten to the point where I was flopping too many levels, and so I had gotten to the point where I was like, okay, I need to scrap this entire recording essentially and just do another one. So with the rotating barrels, they're tough, I feel, because again, you can't see that that white lined outer lip that they have, and it becomes really tough. So for Stop and Go Station, a lot of it is just timing. I try to rush through this level as hard as I can because not only is it based around the time that they give you between when these crocs go to sleep and when they wake, you're also trying to keep a certain level of consistency as well, so that consistency is largely dependent on how fast I can go through here. It's like, how fast can I go through here, how often can I hit these barrels, and how much can I keep them asleep. So I kind of had a hard time with this. I wasn't able to really see the lip that well, so with this room, I don't really have the timing for it memorized. So I literally just kind of went through it and stuff, and then just made it to the exit, and I was just happy with it. And so we have these platforms here, and again, it's largely based on timing and stuff, and this one always kind of screws with me a bit, so I keep hitting the barrel because the timing for it has always been off a little bit. And then through here, we can just literally rush, push the tire, jump, rush some more, and then just flat out run to the exit, just full stop. So Millstone Mayhem is actually one of my favorite levels because it has really good contrast. This barrel right here is largely based around timing as well. You know, I can literally just shoot and shoot, and I always start off with 2 Kongs, so I never have to go to the left. I like how there's a straight tan background, accented with a little bit of green and stuff. It makes the enemies way easier to see. You know, I don't really struggle nearly as hard with it and stuff, and it makes them a hell of a lot easier to identify. Right here, I realize the tire is gone, so I decide to sacrifice one of my Kongs to get to this barrel here, because I know that I'm going to be getting them back later. This is just timing. Timing and memorization of which characters actually highlight and stuff, so it's not super horrible to go through. So we're entering our first animal area and stuff, and I actually really like this one the most because it's a red background with a blue character, and it makes it a little bit easier to see, and then the coral itself is like some kind of off-brand purple. So it makes it easier to go through, you know, collect up all the little fish symbols and stuff, and it's nice. You know, it's really nice. I kind of wish games had more high contrast settings like this. I don't really see stuff with a striking contrast like this too often anymore, but when I do, I always kind of deeply appreciate it, I think. So, I like going through little bonus rooms, you know, going down through the bottom and stuff, and then you hit that multiplier and you go and you pick up all the little fish and stuff, and, you know, go up and you collect a couple more fish, and I think around this time I had around 500? I can't actually see the numbers up in the corner, but that generally is what I get, you know, whenever I finish this round and stuff. I normally bounce around between 500 and 600, so I think this is one of my 600 runs, you know, because of, they make little noises every time you get, like, a life at the end, so you just kind of count them up and stuff, and it's pretty good stuff. I liked it. So the rest of this level, it pretty much focuses around wheels and stuff, and if memory serves, I do believe it's a beaver that's powering the center of it. And it's always been, like, really nice. With these detect the balloon rooms, I get kind of lucky with it. Sometimes I get them, sometimes I don't. It used to be when I was younger, I'd have to let my vision blur out and let the peripheral pick it up, because your peripheral will pick up the barrel that the balloon is in a lot better than your central vision. So, it's just really nice, you know, like a lot of the mechanics this game had and stuff. It stays true to classic platforming mechanics, and I find that it holds up, you know, well over 20 years later. It's really, really nice. I do enjoy it. And then, like, right here, you know, with the tire on the platform, I realize it's not going to happen, you know, because I'm not going to get enough lift, so I sacrifice another Kong again. I jump on the platforms, and then I go ahead and I grab the frog here, because, again, it makes it a little bit easier to see. And then it gives me massive jump potential as well. So it's really, really nice to be able to just go and navigate the level a hell of a lot more easily. I kind of struggle with this area a little bit, and I lose them, and, you know, naturally I die right there because I can't. Sometimes my vision just can't really keep up with it and stuff, so, you know, we bust out of the barrel, we keep going again. You know, barrel in hand, of course, you know, grab the tire again, and, you know, we just kind of go through the motions, essentially. So, misjudged the grindstone there, was still able to get the frog and stuff, and so we jump over the platform, and, you know, I get lucky, there's another DK barrel right here, and it's really nice stuff. Like, I find the game's got a lot of really good balance to it. So, and then, you know, we go, and, oh, we almost lose the frog, but we step on the snake, and, you know, then we wind up losing the frog again. He winds up in another hole, and we have to go and grab him, and then jump, and, you know, like, the levels are definitely playable. You know, it just takes a little bit of a time commitment and stuff. I try to jump the grindstone here, you know, because we have all these snakes to contend with, and it's just straight up suicide. And then, like, right about here, you know, I go and lose the frog again. It's just kind of like a painful thing. Like, some of this game has, like, really, really good balance, but there's other portions of the game that don't have super amazing balance. So, we're moving on to Nikki's nuts, and, you know, sexual innuendos aside. This one isn't too bad. It's pretty easy. It's just an A and a B scenario, you know, just jump on the tire, then land on his beak, and, you know, before you know it, he's down. He's one of my favorite bosses. You know, like, I like how a lot of the bosses in Donkey Kong are formulated around animals and stuff. You know, the theming for the game is actually really nice. It's something I always enjoy coming back to. So we're moving on to Vine Valley. I struggle with this area particularly hard because it's mainly brown and green, and there's like a lot of barrels and stuff that you're going to have to use, and, you know, when you can't really see it much, you struggle with it, essentially. So for the majority of the level, I'm doing okay, but once we get to what I call high transfer areas, where there's like nothing but barrel transportation 24/7, you know, going from point A to point B with it, I struggled with it pretty hard. So another stereotypical jump to grab the symbol room, you know, again, based down to timing and stuff, and it's really, really just simple stuff. So for the ostrich, I actually really, really like how this area was done. You know, it's like, it's really fast, it's really, really fun, and I have a good time with it. I think, you know, like, I have an amazing amount of fun with this particular area in general. I don't really have as much fun as I do with Ungarde, but I actually do love the ostrich quite a bit. You know, it's just like really, really fun to just jump around and, you know, kind of float down and then jump to the next area. And as always, we're going to be going ahead and hitting the bonus room that we have here. So we jump up, you know, we go back, we do another pass. You know, the key is to try to grab as many as you can before going and getting the multiplier. You jump, hover for a little bit, and then jump up and over. And, you know, I think this one I ended up with, oh man, I think this one I ended up with 7 lives, if memory serves. You know, we'll go ahead and find out. Yeah, we ended up with about 7 lives. So it was good stuff. The area in general is kind of annoying. It's not a bad level per se, but having all these little baby vultures going and chucking nuts at you is... it goes from funny to kind of aggravating with the way they have them set up sometimes. So with this bonus room, having to step on these little buggers here, it's not particularly great because the main issue that I run into is I can't really actually tell when they stop blinking. So every time I go to literally stand on one, I'm running the risk of getting eaten by something, and then, you know, we collect the 1 life at the end there. And it's not an overly difficult bonus room, but it's not one of my favorites. So this is the start where they have you start transitioning from barrel to barrel quite often. I can't really see that white ring, so a lot of it is down to memory. If I didn't have that memory, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to do this area unless I rebuilt the timing from scratch. You know, just like made a new mental image of it, essentially, and stuff. And then seeing these vultures is a little bit of a pain too, because they have a tendency to blend in with the background a little bit. Same thing with the little areas that you can bounce off of and get barrels from. So every now and then I kind of remember where a bonus room is at. This one is just based around timing and stuff, so I can literally just mash A and never fail. You know, it's literally a fail-proof room. So from here, the bees aren't so bad. The red ones are kind of hard to see, but the yellow ones definitely poke out like a sore thumb. And, you know, I actually like how they used the yellow ones. I would have really loved to see it more, I think. So Treetop Town is kind of a mixed bag, I think. It's got like that blue background mashed up with the brown background. It makes it kind of hard to see things. This bonus room isn't too difficult either. Again, a lot of it is just counting the noise and, you know, going in and grabbing it and stuff. And, you know, as you play, as you get used to it, it gets easier and easier as time goes on. So I'm really grateful for it. But doing this without audio was just a straight up nightmare. You know, a lot of it was just basic muscle memory, and then with these barrels I couldn't really see the lip on it, but again, you memorize the timing of it, and you get used to it after a while. And then these barrels right here, I feel are they're pretty much fail-proof. You know, you just wait, mash A, wait, mash A. Same thing with these barrels right here. It's just you can't fuck this part up. It's literally just so easy. So I found this point to be a particular pain, because a lot of it, so the timing for these barrels is off by a smidge. You know, it's kind of like something I had to relearn a little bit, because they're not, these barrels look consistent, but they're not entirely consistent. And then the enemies as well, you know, it wasn't really, wasn't something that was like really easy to see and such. So I have to go through this entire section praying to God that I don't make a mistake, essentially, with any of the timing. And, you know, it gets a little bit easier, but it's still like a chronic raging pain at times. Then I kind of like, I was like, do I want to get this ostrich, you know? Forest Frenzy isn't a bad level, I feel. You know, it's not the worst thing ever. The only thing I didn't like about it was sometimes the ropes are hard to see. And since you do like a lot of rope travel in this level, it's just something that you gotta kind of get used to, I guess. But I don't really care for it. You know, like I understand that the game wasn't really built to like cater to the blind or anything, but it seems like a lot of this is just like really painful, and it just doesn't particularly feel good. I mean, I'm still to a lesser extent having fun with the game. It's just, you know, the ropes are so low definition that I have a hard time telling where they're at because they just blend in with everything else. So we have like this area with bees, and I'm actually pretty blessed that they're all red, essentially. Well, kind of like a rust color. And it makes it easier to see them coming at me, you know, but I can't really tell how big they are because with my eyes losing definition and stuff, they look a hell of a lot bigger than what they are. You know, they have that blur. And so we have these yellow bees, which are, you know, as always, they're substantially easier to go and be able to go and, you know, wade through and stuff. It's not so bad. The crocs, just to give in, you just go and bounce a couple of times off the enemies, and, you know, that's pretty much it. And then these ropes, they're pretty foolproof for the most part, I feel, you know, because once they stop moving, you just jump. You know, once you figure out things are done moving, you just jump. And it makes things a lot more easy to be able to get through. I don't really ever go for that life, I feel, because it just looks like a death trap. And then going through these vultures here is a little bit of a pain because they're brown, the background's brown. The ones on the bottom are easier to see, but not so much on the top. So we're getting towards the end here, and it's just bouncing off of enemies and walking through the door. So Temple Tempest is a little bit of a stress-inducing level, I feel. You know, like with Temple Tempest and stuff, you know, it's pretty much a high-speed area. Going through the Rhinos bonus room is actually a lot of fun. I love going through and taking Ramby through these levels and stuff, and, you know, these like little bonus levels that he gets and stuff. It's fun just jumping from platform to platform. The only thing that I didn't really care about is the timer for it is really fast. You literally spend more time jumping from platform to platform to get to his multiplier than anything else. I think they also sped up the timer to accommodate the immense amount of speed that he has. So the most I ever get out of this room is 5, sometimes 4 lives. You know, I think in this case I only got 4. Yeah, 4. But yeah, with this level in general, I kind of struggled with it a little bit because it takes my vision a second to process things. Like, my vision's actually really sluggish. So having to go through this area pretty much non-stop while a giant grind wheel chases you is just kind of like a painful experience, I think. You know, like, it can be fun, I feel. I mean, it's not the most fun stuff ever, but it's just kind of a pain because, you know, it's like you got these little beavers walking up on you and stuff, and then these other areas that you're going to wander into, they're going to have like a lot of enemies and such. Some of them, like right here, have the bees, and then down here you can get the bonus barrel. Again, you know, it's kind of hard to see this dude, but it's a little bit easier, it's a little bit safer as well because there's not two this time around. I'm pretty sure there's just one. And so you go and you jump and you just land on him and stuff, and the thing kind of screws with me is that he picks up speed. As you can see here, in my visual processing has like a hard time going and keeping up with it and stuff, so I hate to admit it, but like a lot of these rooms, strangely enough, are just dumb luck. You know, there's not as much skill as you would like to believe, essentially. So right here's where things kind of heat up. You know, you have that grindstone that starts to chase you, so you have to do some mild platforming and bouncing off a couple tires, then jumping over enemies. I have a tendency to get stuck in this hole here. I never really jump high enough, and then once you get past it, you know, there's this grindstone chasing you, and then you're jumping over enemies before you can make it to the exit. So for this particular level, I like to do a little trick where I take the steel barrel and I go throw it and jump on it. It's really fun to actually go and do, and it runs over a bunch of enemies, and it's just like a really silly thing that I think that I've always enjoyed quite a bit. This level is, it's kind of easy, kind of not. Like the green's really nice, it pokes out against the background a fair bit where everything else is kind of dimmed, and then you got that orange sunset in the back there. It makes it a little bit easier to move around, and then you have the contrast of the blue enemies here that just makes it a little bit easier. I have a tendency to abuse the ostrich in this area because I kind of struggle with how fast these barrels are moving. You know, like they move super duper fast and stuff, and my eye can't really keep up with it essentially, so I abuse the ostrich, and I have a tendency to pretty much flap my way throughout the entire level and stuff, and you know, it makes everything a little bit easier, a little bit more accessible. I didn't bother to go for any of the bonus stuff in those two pits there. It just seemed kind of like a waste. I just kind of wanted to get out of the level and stuff because I traditionally struggle with it pretty hard. So for Clam City, it's not bad, it's not great. The main thing that I struggle with Clam City is those little pearls that are being shot. They're such low definition that I can tell that something is moving, but I can't really tell like where it's at. It's really weird. Like I know that it's there, I just don't know where it's at. So the pearls have a tendency to get lost in the background because the blue just kind of hazes everything out, and then I kind of struggle with these fish here as well. Like with my last recording, I actually died quite a bit to them because I just couldn't see it. And so the one thing that really kind of kills me more than anything else, aside from like my vision and stuff in this level, is how sluggish the response time is for Donkey Kong Country. Like all the characters, like as far as I'm aware, the only Donkey Kong Country that actually had like a really good response time was 2. With Donkey Kong 1 and 3, the characters are like very, very sluggish, and they kind of handle like bricks of lead. You know, and then when you're floating around and stuff and you're trying to do aquatic levels, you kind of, for some areas, you need that better response time and stuff, you know. So you're sitting there and you're going through it and you're like, oh no, there's like this pearl coming at me, so you'll go to turn around really fast. And you'll completely miss it, you know. Like I know with like a lot of these sharks and stuff, I have a tendency to stay to the side and be really careful where I paddle and stuff. So this clam I actually had down to timing. You know, like I knew I had to be in a certain space around a certain time because I think he shoots a wide shot of pearls, and then the same thing with the octopuses as well, and then this clam up here. So this boss is actually kind of a pain. The entire screen looks, for the most part, it looks yellow to me, with a little bit of, I want to say a little bit of gray in there. The easiest way to make this boss particularly easy is to just literally go get DK and then have him hold the barrel above his head and stuff while running around the arena. It pretty much idiot-proofs the boss and stuff. When he's red, he's a little bit easier to track, but when he's yellow, not so much. So it's just better to go in with DK, pick up the barrel, hold it above your head, run around. If the bee hits it and takes no damage, that's fine. Just get up, do it again. You know, and it's real easy to take him out when you use like little corner cuts and stuff like that. So I struggled all to hell and back with this world. Like, this world in general was quite literally the bane of my existence, and that's mainly because it's white. When it's white like this, my vision washes out so hard. Like, I just struggled with it so badly. And so I think even with this bonus room, I was struggling with it pretty hard. Like, I kind of had to try to get a little bit closer to the TV and stuff to try to make out what the hell it was that I was doing. So we get jettisoned back into the level and stuff, and then I struggle with the barrel almost immediately. Jumping off the ostriches wasn't too bad. Or vultures wasn't too bad. You know, you throw the barrel and stuff. But really where this game starts to lose me is during the heavier platform segments. So the lip on these barrels, I already can't see it, and even if I could, it probably would be washed out against the background here. So you're kind of going from barrel to barrel, and you try to adhere to some form of timing, but it doesn't particularly work. So I go and I ride the barrel down a little bit, I jump off of it, and I go ahead and start taking the barrels over. So this is pretty much the worst case scenario for me. I'm pretty sure all of this is snow, if memory serves, but the problem is there's so much of it. When it's in low definition, it looks a hell of a lot bigger than what it is, and partially this is like due to complex astigmatism that I have and such, and so I get lucky and I hit that shortcut barrel there. The last recording I did of this, I was some 45 minutes just into this level alone, and it was just straight pain. So Slip and Slide Ride is not the best, it's not the worst. It's a white and blue background and stuff, which is actually really, really fun. It makes it a little bit easier to see, but this croc here actually kind of blends in, so does the rope. So, you go, I pick up the bonus level, and then I kind of struggled with this one a little bit as well. Like, my vision was getting kind of tired at this point, and, I was knee-deep in recording and stuff, and, like, certain patterns and certain colors just wear my vision out really, really fast. So I spent so much time just trying to go and get this particular section of the island done, and a lot of it was like, okay, this is where I'm at in the level, this is what I should be doing, this is what I should be looking for. Like with these ropes and stuff, these bees nailed me so hard my first run through, and then, going through the motions of this bonus level here, it's just a little bit bigger, has more letters, and then I get lucky because I can't really see like a lot of the blinking and stuff. So these rope areas aren't so bad. With my first taping of this, I had actually gotten killed a fair bit because I was a little too slow on the draw with like a lot of it and stuff. So you can go jump on the vulture here and then just go all the way down. I kind of have to pay special attention to the armadillo because sometimes when I look I just don't see them. Same thing with the crocs there, and then from here it's just jumping from rope to rope and then trying to get to the exit, watching out for that mini croc there, hitting up the barrel, and then you just make a beeline to the exit after going and stepping on this croc here and collecting the O, and you gotta keep pushing. I think with a lot of it, you're gonna be making I find that with a lot of these levels, you're going to be making a beeline to the exit, kind of like what I'm doing. I'm not even bothering to go and, going to grab any of the bonus areas or anything unless it's, like, right there and easy to spot right off the bat. I get nailed by the bee here because I just wasn't paying attention, essentially, then jumping from rope to rope here. Another thing that kind of like really nails me to the floor is the ice has a tendency to kill what little response time you have. So you're slipping and sliding and everything's sluggish, and you can actually shimmy up these ropes a fair bit as well, and then you just go straight to the exit. So Ice Age Alley was pretty bad right off the bat. I get kind of lazy with it and I go directly left because I know that there's an ostrich here, and I know that this ostrich is going to make my life a lot better, essentially. So I spend the majority of this level just going and running from one end to the other. In many ways I was kind of speed running it a bit because I just don't find struggling through these levels like super enjoyable or anything. And so with here, it's like I try to get the rest of the bananas and stuff. It's a little bit of a pain. Eventually, I just like opt to leave, grab up the ostrich again, and we just leave and get the hell out of there. So a lot of this is just literally hovering from one end to the other. I find that a lot of the baby vultures are placed in very dickish positions, like very much so in your face kind of positions that just makes everything a hell of a lot harder than what it has to be. So a lot of it is down to proper timing and just raw speed. Then I jump here and I just proceed to flap my way through the majority of the level. Dodging these little baby crocs up here has always been kind of a pain. Then go and you flap some more, and this bonus level or bonus area was like literally right in my face, and so I wanted to take a shot at it. There we go. Nailed it. So of course we have the orangutans up here throwing barrels, and it makes things substantially more difficult. There's just a ton of them, so as you can see I just literally go and just like flap straight to the end. So Octopus Chase isn't really as bad as I thought it would be. In all honesty, it's a very streamlined level. It's not super difficult. Everything is hazed out in the blue background and stuff, so what I actually had a tendency to do with this level is I was looking for a darker shade of blue a little bit, and then I would just literally have my character beeline throughout the entire thing. So a lot of the time you can just literally go and rub up against coral and it'll actually guide you to where you need to be. Pay attention to wherever the bananas are at, because the bananas will often guide you out of the way of enemies that are oncoming and stuff. And I had to practice this level a lot, I think. Like I was going through it and I was just kind of struggling with it, I think. And so I paid attention to what the developers had kind of laid down for everything. They've always, Rare in general has always been really good laying down bananas where they feel that you should be. Again, the level is just largely streamlined. You can literally just paddle and rub and paddle and rub, and it's not super difficult. It's actually one of the more easier levels in this area. I don't really think that the crocs, well, the croctopuses are really any sort of threat. I mean, they're chasing you, but they're not really going fast per se. Like it actually feels like they're less agile than the Kongs are in some aspects, because you can literally go and just move faster than them, get the hell out of the way essentially. And but no, it's not a horrible level. I really liked it, actually. I mean, granted, I was really bad at it for a while, but I actually really liked it a fair bit. And I do have a lot of fun with this level as well. There's something that's actually kind of exciting about having a croctopus chase you and stuff, and especially when you're kind of a sluggish character. It kind of makes for a little bit of a more exhilarating experience, I think. So towards the end here, they just have a tendency to just stay hot on your heels. They just chase and chase and chase, and since I lost Diddy, I'm playing as the substantially slower DK, and then paddling for my life here, praying to God that none of these little jellyfish actually hit me and stuff. Real bane of my existence, I think. So with Torchlight Trouble, I actually had to be really, really careful with how I handled this level because you're reliant on squawks to literally go and provide light and stuff, but that light is shown in whatever direction it is that you're facing. So the problem that I have is I change directions often when I'm going and doing like a lot of platforming and stuff, so as an end result, what winds up happening is, see how you have that flash there? I have to be careful with it because I do have epilepsy, and so flashes in gaming and stuff, you know, are rather hazardous to me and stuff. So with this particular level, I'm literally sitting here and it's like, okay, I have this flashing light, essentially, and my vision still picks up the flash even if it's in low definition. So with this level, I initially, with the initial recording, I was doing really, really badly with it. It was giving me like migraines and stuff, and I mean, it's a cool level. I enjoyed it, you know, playing it as a kid and stuff, but now that I'm older, I find that I have to be more mindful of things. You know, so we have like this bonus room here, and you know, see what I mean? You know, it's like when you move direction a lot, there's going to be like a lot of flashing, especially when dealing with enemies like this. And you know, hindsight probably wasn't my most intelligent idea to do this, but I wanted to sit down and enjoy the game for a while, I think. You know. So I wound up losing that, and then I just kind of mosey on to the exit here. So Rope Bridge Rumble really isn't that bad. It actually has pretty good contrast to it, I think. You know, like the entire environment in the background have like these really white muted tones and stuff. So things like the bananas here and the enemies and everything else. Even the platforms have a tendency to poke out a lot, and then of course grabbing the frog. You know, and then his green coloring is going to poke out a lot as well. So it just makes the area a lot more fun to play, I think. You know, I can just take my time with it, enjoy it, and not have to really worry about it too much. It's just a lot of fun, and I just always have like a lot of fun with high contrast levels and stuff. And I think it's because I don't really struggle too hard. You know, I can just literally go play it and be like, okay, you know, here we are. But yeah, always grab the frog if you can help it. I didn't really bother to go for like many of the bonus rooms, primarily because it had been so long since I had played this game that I barely remember any of it. You know, it wasn't super great or anything, and so I'm literally going and just going through the motions, essentially. You know, platform's a lot easier, and then we grab this bonus area here, and you know, just your standard, you know, 3 of a kind style stuff, and I enjoy it. So this is the, I guess the enhanced quote-quote version of Naughty. There's nothing really special about him. I mean, he pokes out against the environment pretty well and stuff, and I think the only thing he really does is different is he just jumps higher more than normal, and he's a little bit faster, and He's not really, like, I wouldn't so much call him a shake and bake boss, but there's really just nothing new to him. Not enough to really be noteworthy. So this is one of my favorite areas out of the entire game. I like how they did this. I love the industrial feel of it and stuff. The gray has a tendency to blur, but most of the enemies actually have pretty cool contrast. I kind of goof up there thinking that there's a bonus area, then I continue to make the mistake by grabbing the DK barrel and thinking that I can trash an oil drum with it, but, you know, I'm wrong. And so I kind of laugh it off a little bit and I continue going throughout the level and stuff. So I'm really glad that the barrels have like a really vibrant fire to them, because it lets me know exactly where I'm at in the level and stuff, and so it makes for a much better level, I think. So, you know, you just kind of go through the motions with this. I think the blue gators have a tendency to go and blend in with the environment a little bit. I mean, it's not as hard, but it's a little bit of a pain to make them out, I think. So we just go through, grab the halfway barrel, and we just kind of keep on pushing and stuff, and, you know, bonus DK barrel there, I believe, and, you know, I just kind of kept pushing through the level, essentially, and it wasn't too bad. It was really nice, I think. And then the orangutans as normal, well, orangutangs. The funny thing about this entire area of the game is that it was my most favorite area of the game, and yet I barely remember any of the bonus rooms. Like, no shit. I used to play this area all the time as a kid, and now that I'm older, it's like, you know, why am I forgetting this stuff? You know, why is this such an issue? It was just something I think I kind of struggled with a fair bit. When you get older, the memory starts to go. But, you know, jumping up and dodging these barrels is really friggin' obnoxious. Oh god, I hated this. Alright, there we go. So, you can actually, there's a small amount of frames that are there before you actually start taking damage. You can actually, if you time it right, you can actually jump through all of these and not even have to worry about it. So for Trick Track Trek, it's pretty much like all the other mine levels, except for this one, I do believe the only thing you're doing is riding a track platform throughout the entire level. And so it's not bad. Like, it's not as bad as the other levels that are like this, where you have to collect, like, things of oil to actually keep them running and stuff. So going through it is actually a lot of fun, because it's really just riding and bouncing off of enemies and riding some more, and it's actually a really, really large amount of fun. It's one of my favorite levels. Like, I remember as a kid I used to play this all the time. I would just play this level over and over again. It was a lot of fun. So, the obnoxious baby vulture makes a comeback. Decides he wants to spit nuts, and then with these vultures it was kind of hard to tell where they're at, because they're brown, the background's brown. You know, it's literally like you just go and like you get used to it after a while. I feel you get like used to the timing and everything else, and but yeah, just a super fun level. So this part used to really screw with me when I was younger, because what I would do is, since I enjoyed a little bit more agility, I would play as Diddy Kong, and I would just try to plow through these enemies as much as possible. You know, and I really, really liked it. It wasn't until that I was older I had to say to myself, hey, you need to play as DK, because there's going to be larger enemies later. I didn't really care for this bonus room. This style of Mini Croc is just a pain in my ass, because he jumps with me, and I don't really care for that. You know, like, it's funny, but at the same time it's really annoying, especially when he starts picking up speed and you're trying to go and, you know, just make it through, essentially, and it's kind of a hard thing, I think. So right here, all these enemies just like start dropping off. I wasn't really paying attention. Had a beaver drop down on top of me. Well, little mini naughty, whatever you'd like to call him. And I just, oh god, it was the worst. Now, you can make it through this area as Diddy, but you have to do a little bit of, well, I wouldn't so much call it high-stakes maneuvers, but you have to be a little bit more cautious with it, especially with this guy right here, because if you jump on him, he just flinches and you go flying off the track, and that's pretty much it right there. So, with this level, it actually has pretty good pacing, I think. You know, like, it actually doesn't feel like too much or too little, it feels just like the right amount that you're gonna need and stuff. Nothing really ever feels too difficult, you know. Like, not even this section is particularly difficult, it's just like move forward a little bit and that's all you gotta do. So, these guys, I don't even think Diddy can actually handle. I think you have to have DK for it, because he's just too damn big. And then we're going to meet a derivative of that enemy later that nobody can jump on, which is going to be a chronic raging pain in my ass. So, Elevator Antics really is not that bad. It's actually really fun. It's one of my more favorite levels. You know, it's got good pacing as well, and if you pay closer attention to it than normal, it's not too difficult and stuff. So we're back in the match up the text bonus room, and, you know, again, it's just you gotta pay attention to it, and then you gotta pay attention to, like, the timing and everything else. It's not super horrible, you get used to it after a while. So with Elevator Antics, the big thing that I had to struggle through was how the elevators actually move. And it's because sometimes they're early, sometimes they're late. The timing for them is not consistent. And at first I thought it was just me being, like, really bad at the game. I was like, you know, oh man, I don't remember being this horrible at it, but I found out later that basically what was happening was that I, was failing to realize that not everything in the game is timed correctly. We had Rare come out later, and they were like, oh yeah, some of the areas just don't have precision timing, so with Elevator Antics, you have to pay a little bit more attention to it. You know, you can't just, like, blitz through it really, really hard. I get lucky here, and I barely miss this bee. But there was actually other things that really, really weren't that great with this level. Like, while it is one of the funner levels to actually go and play, I found that the 4:3 aspect ratio wasn't really that great, because sometimes you'll drop down, there'll be an enemy in your face, and with as sluggish as these characters kind of control at times, you know, you can't really do anything about it. You know, they're already in your face, you can't really do much with it, so you wind up either taking damage from it or flat out dying from it. I find that a lot of these old 4:3 aspect ratio games often suffer from things like this, you know. Especially where the Kongs are positioned, you know, because, like, you're sitting there and they're kind of, like, more towards the center of the screen, I want to say, and so the camera moves kind of weirdly at times with them, and it makes it kind of hard to see what's coming up, essentially. But no, with a little bit of practice and stuff, you get a feel for where everything is at, and you can kind of compensate for that that sluggish reaction time with a lot of Rare's games. So Poison Pond is my least favorite water-based level in the game, and a large portion of it has to do with the obnoxious fog that it has. I've never really been a fan of it, and it only got worse with age, I think. So this level suffers from, like, a couple of things that I never really cared for too much. The first one was the this dense kind of pollution fog that they went ahead and stuck in here. And then you go ahead and you pair it up with how sluggish the reaction time of the Kongs are, and you pair that up with fast-moving enemies towards the end and various other things to dodge, and it just kind of creates a miserable level, because you're not really quite fast enough to dodge things, and then you're not, like, really, like, super responsive enough to really be able to dodge things in a quick succession. So it makes it kind of a painful experience. Like, I really hate to admit it, but like, this level whips my ass. Like, it really does. It's not easy. I lost more lives here than anything else. You know, it was a really tough level, I feel, and I'm sure that, like, the level has its fans and stuff, but I feel that the asymmetry of the level kind of ruins a lot of it, because with the other levels, you know, a lot of things are kind of predictable and they follow set paths and stuff. With this, it's like that jellyfish right in your face almost immediately. And then you have oddly grouped things of piranhas later, so instead of one, sometimes you'll get two, and like it's really weird how they went ahead and did this. The thing is I don't know if this is intentional, or if they were just like running out of budget and just didn't want to fix it. Part of me would like to believe that it's intentional, but again, I don't know. You know, there was for DKC, there was really no behind the scenes as far as I could tell. Rare has never really been a fan of doing behind the scenes or any sort of interview, or like, they're very secretive with a lot of their stuff. It doesn't matter if it's DKC or Perfect Dark or anything else that they've worked on. You know, it's always kind of like a secrecy thing with them. So the response time just completely destroys me in this level. There was actually a lot of thought where I was saying to myself, do I really want to sit here, and do I want to actually do a cut where I go and just show like the level is, showing off the run that actually beats the level. And I kind of like concluded for a while, I was like, okay, well, I kind of want to do these in like a raw format, you know, like I really want to sit down and I want to be like, okay, you know, there's not going to be a lot of editing with these. I like that raw style of film where you can see people's mistakes and how they overcome it and stuff. And, you know, like I always thought it was like really weird watching a run of any sort of playthrough of anything, and, you know, having just this really obnoxious cut 3/4 the way through the game of like somebody was like really struggling with something, and then all of a sudden it just cuts to it being completed. I didn't really ever care for that. I found it incredibly jarring to a certain extent, and so I never really cared for it. I think, you know, I think it's nice to see a gamer overcome things as well. You know, like when they sit down and they're really railing against something really, really hard, and, you know, then they actually go and they beat it and everything feels a lot better and everything else. You know, it's just a better experience, I think, that really speaks to persistence. But no, this level was literally the bane of my existence. This level and the final boss. The final boss mainly because he was sound-based, and I was doing all these runs without sound while I was still working on my setup. And then this level in general because there's a lot of inconsistency with timing, so there's nothing, aside from these wheels, there's not really a lot that's really super consistent. So, you know, right here I just wasn't paying attention. One of the bananas didn't want to pay attention well enough to get him. And so I'm sitting there playing his Diddy. He's a little bit more agile, and then since I can't really see too far into the level, I just get hit in the face with that tire. But no, I wanted to keep at it and stuff. You know, I wound up doing a vote. I was like, okay, if we're gonna be doing long plays and stuff, do you guys want to see the mistakes, or do you guys just want to go through and have cuts to where the level's beaten? And a lot of people were like, hey, you know, can we just have this as a single take? You know, mistakes and all. And finally I was like, okay, you know what, we can do that. So I decided to do all of my long plays like that, you know, because I want to show people that you can have a disability and still go and be able to play and beat things. And, you know, I also wanted to show off the persistence and things needed to actually go and do these, you know. Like when I started losing my vision and stuff, a lot of people were like, your gaming habit is over. And for a while I believed it, you know, like I believed it for a long while. Actually, I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely done playing games. But I learned with some persistence and a little bit of planning, and you can go through and you can still beat them. I mean, it's more difficult, but you can still do it. So, it just really, oh man, it was just tough. So we wound up losing my little swordfish buddy here, and I start looking for him, and then I get on him again, and just this section of the level is the worst because you have all kinds of stuff whipping at you. It's like, oh no. Just like so many piranhas just hauling ass at you. So this level's not too bad. It's not the worst level I've ever seen. It's just kind of like a rehash of the minecart levels from the second area of the game and stuff. And, you know, it's just like a lot of timing and a lot of paying attention. And I got lucky there and didn't take damage. You know, that's what a lot of these levels are, is just timing. Just timing and paying attention and persistence. And then, of course, you know, wasn't really paying attention there either, and it's kind of weird because, like, I would, what would happen is I would go and I would do these runs, and since I'm new to Longplays, essentially, I wouldn't mute my phone, like, at all, so anytime my phone went off, instead of me sitting there saying, oh, I'm in the middle of filming this, I can't answer it, I would literally stop, pick up my phone, and then I would look at it, 9 times out of 10, it would get me killed. It was a little bit of a learning curve and stuff, and like I was still pretty much finding my way, and then doing it without sound was really strange on top of it because, you know, you have to look at everything through a really eroded image, and it's just hard, I think. It's definitely one of the tougher things. And as you're going to see with the later long plays that I've done, you know, there's some areas where you can definitely tell that I wasn't paying attention, so if nothing else, you know, by doing long plays, it actually forces me to be more attentive to what I'm doing, you know, so I can actually pay attention to it and actually get through it, and it's a little bit of a learning process, I think. Yeah, that drop off right there normally scares the hell out of me because it's going so fast. So for this bonus room, it's not too bad. Bananas are easy to see, just jump up and down and up and down, and then just like walk off and stuff. Really fun stuff as usual. Always thought it was kind of funny how they dropped you on a naughty right there. It's just way too funny. So this particular boss fight that is coming up is really strange. It basically breaks the norm of what Donkey Kong bosses are supposed to be. But you guys will be seeing that soon enough. I really don't have anything to say about Blackout Basement. Like, I feel like I should, but I don't. I mean, yeah, the screen goes out, but with your vision already being heavily eroded, you're pretty much already playing without a lot of visual input anyways, so the blacking out of the level doesn't really do anything to me or for me. You know, you're just kind of going through, and, you know, it's just down to timing and stuff, and still, I mean, like I said, all this game, for the most part, is timing. So with Blackout Basement, I know a lot of people that play this game still. They're like, oh, I really struggle with it because I can't see, you know, Raim, do you have a problem with it? And I literally have to shrug and say, no, I don't. I can already barely see it as it is. Blacking out the screen doesn't do dick for me. So it doesn't really, it just doesn't have an impact. Like, I know it probably should, but it just doesn't. But yeah, like literally just going through the motions and jumping on platforms, and I think the only thing that really screws with me is the timing for these barrels coming at me, but again, it's not super horrible. And sometimes this group of enemies nails me as well, but it's not bad. So I actually really like how this boss is. It's really weird because it's not an animal per se like all the other bosses are. This one is literally an inanimate object that's just an oil drum, that's it. No bells, no whistles, just an oil drum that's vomiting up enemies left and right. You know, so the whole thing for this boss fight is literally just dodge it, have it vomit up more enemies on you. I kind of make that mistake there, not really paying attention. But yeah, he keeps slamming himself down, and it's not hard to dodge it, you know, and then with these guys you just roll into them and it's fine. I found that it was like kind of interesting a little bit, the order of enemies that actually come out of this boss, because you would seriously think there would be an escalation of difficulty, but the ending is literally 2 armadillos, which one of them is real easy, but 2 of them can be a pain because of the way that you recoil off of them and stuff. So we're heading into the last large-scale area of the game. I like this area, but I also hate it at the same time. I like it because it has like some of that classic mining platforming that I had back in the second area of the game, but I also don't like it because keeping up with certain things is incredibly difficult. So the premise for this level is that you have to collect what appears to be oil canisters, oil drums, whatever you'd like to call them, to keep your platform fed. I always thought it was kind of inventive because we didn't really see a lot of stuff like this on the SNES. You know, we didn't see like a lot of inventive platforming and stuff. And so it's really weird for me to literally just kind of sit here and play this level and think in the back of my mind, oh man, nobody else is really doing this. You know, I think the Donkey Kong Country was a kind of a special game because we didn't have graphics that looked super amazing like this. You know, the way that they rendered this was just really gorgeous, and I love how they did it. From what I understand, at the time when Rare was making these games, they had some pretty top-notch workstations at the time, and like these games were stretching out the SNES hardware too. Like there's some area where the game slows down because it just can't keep up. It's not so much common in DKC, but you're definitely going to be seeing it a lot in DKC 2 and 3. Those games, again, they have a tendency to stretch out the SNES a fair bit. You know, I think that Donkey Kong Country was more reserved with things. You know, because like they were making a new title essentially, and they want to make sure everything's functional, whereas Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3 was more about, okay, we know what we can do, how far can we push it? So I struggle a little bit here in the mines, I feel. The mines in itself isn't a bad area, it's just like with everything else that I've talked about with this particular long play, it's a little bit too much is blurring in, you know, like the wasps actually kind of blend in with the background a little bit. The naughties are a little bit more easy, you know, they're green and stuff. And then right there I roll off and I barely grab that oil barrel. See a little bit of slowdown right there. But yeah, towards the middle and the end of this particular level, it's like you're just kind of grabbing as many fuel cans as you can, and it provides a pretty good platforming challenge, I feel. You know, like you just go and you grab and you go and you grab, and then, you know, you just kind of keep on going, and it's really nice, I think. Oop. Not gonna lie, that scared the hell out of me when I saw him, like, coming at me like that. I was like, oh no, I don't want to die here, you know. It's pretty funny stuff, I think. So, I didn't really particularly care for this level at all. The whole floating death tire thing was, I don't know, like, I could understand it in Poison Pond and stuff, but with this one, it's like, oh god, what's the premise for this? So, I go in to check for a bonus level. I get it wrong, fine, shit happens. But, no, like, this entire level was just, like, really weird and had, like, floating tires and, those huge buff gators. And then eventually I just said to hell with Ramby at this point and decided to progress with the level. I was like, yeah, dude, I don't want to get too knee-deep in that. I mean, yeah, he's beneficial for the rest of the level because he can literally go and bounce off damn near everything, but there's just, like, a certain point where I was like, yeah, I just kind of want to get the hell up out of here, and it definitely was not my favorite level. And then right here, my phone had rang, and I picked it up and died from it. But no, I think, like, the biggest discrepancy I had with DKC is I really wish that it was a little bit more responsive. Like, I understand the DK is supposed to be a bigger character and he's not supposed to be, like, super responsive and stuff, but it feels like a lot of the jumps that I'm able to make with him, it really, in all honesty, feels like dumb luck. Like, no joke, it literally feels like dumb luck, I think, sometimes, because I look back and I'm kind of sweating a little bit, and I'm like, oh man, how did I make that? But, yeah, it feels like jumping feels much more tense than what it should be, I think. So with Misty Mine, there really just isn't too much of anything special to it. They stick that mist filter on it and stuff, but for the most part, it's pretty much every other mine level that you have ran across, except this one seems to have a surplus of snakes going on. So I don't really, like, to be honest with you, it's a lot like Blackout Basement. And so it just doesn't do anything for me. Like, I know that I should be like, oh look, fog, but it really just doesn't do anything at all for me. The level itself is prone to a fair bit of slowdown because it has that filter and then it has, like, all the enemies and stuff. Like, this engine just didn't really cope well with having a ton of stuff on screen. I mean, it's gorgeous to look at, but you can definitely tell that it struggles a fair bit. It's kind of weird because when I go and I talk to people about it, everybody kind of hated this level. Like, they're like, oh, it's a bad level because of all the snakes and all the enemies coming at you all the time. And it's really weird because I don't view it so much as a good or bad level. I kind of just look at it and I go, meh. Like, literally just meh. So when going and doing this level, it's like I don't really get excited for the exit either. It's just kind of one of those weird little things, I'm just kind of like, okay, we're kind of going through the motion here, not really a lot of excitement, not really a lot of disappointment, just kind of like the same old, essentially. It's just a ton of enemies, a little bit of slowdown, more enemies, more slowdown. I think that they just kind of wanted to play it safe with this particular level in general. Just kind of deliver more of what people liked, essentially. So this level in general is not really bad or anything. It's just those really annoyingly obnoxious maroon smaller little crocodiles that constantly jump with you and stuff, and then you gotta try to keep the lights on top of it. In all honesty, I don't even really know why I even bother to have the lights on, because it doesn't really do anything for me. And then an interesting little visual indicator of those little crocodiles is like their white little teeth, which poke out very heavily in the background. I think I get like the barrels more as a force of habit. Like when I was younger, I was like, oh, I can't really see this. I need to have these barrels. But now that I'm older and stuff and can't really see it too well, I just kind of, like, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, you know, hey, why the hell am I even bothering to grab these? You know, and especially when the little crocs poke out that much. You know, like their teeth just pokes out so much. These jumping crocs, not so much. But yeah, just a straight up force of habit going and like grabbing the barrels and stuff. Like you never really realize how much of your gameplay habits are ingrained into your runs until you actually go to do one and you start questioning why you're doing some things. You just kind of look at it and you're like, oh wow, really? You know, am I doing this? Blah, 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 blah. But it definitely becomes a force of habit, a part of, I think a large portion of it is a part of your muscle memory as well. You get used to playing certain levels, certain ways and stuff, and it just sticks with you. You know, no matter how you change, I think. But yeah, eventually I just say to hell with it and I just start winging it and stuff, and you know, I just start pushing towards the end, say to hell with the barrels, and you know, then of course you got the orangutan up here, and you have to get the barrel in order just to get on top of him and defeat him and go from there. And then right at the end I die there. You know, I found it was pretty funny because I turned around and just boom, there it was, you know. So we start back at the halfway point, and you know, it's the same principle, you know. I think you're just kind of like pushing through it a fair bit, and again with the habits of muscle memory and everything else, it's like, oh yes, you know, let me go ahead and grab that, then try to grab those bananas, and you know, it's just things you got to practice, just practice, practice, practice. So I feel like out of all the areas of the game, this particular area probably took the most lives out of me. Naturally, I had a pretty big pool of lives going because I knew pretty much where to find all of them, and then, you know, going to the animal bonus areas and stuff, they definitely contributed to the amount of lives that I have. But some areas I just struggle with and stuff. You know, it's just, even with practice, sometimes you just kind of look at it and you're like, oh geez, you know, here we go. And, you know, some areas are just going to fail in a couple of times. And I think, like, when I first started losing my vision, I was actually, strangely enough, uncomfortable with it. I would be like, oh my god, you know, this shouldn't be like this. And I would actually get really, really upset. And then, as I got older, you know, I matured to a certain lesser extent, and I just learned to accept it and then just try to learn to show up and greet the challenge, per se, instead of like being upset that I couldn't do things super amazingly. You know, I was like, okay, you know, let's just kind of keep trying, let's keep practicing and stuff. So platform perils is a pain in my ass, and I'm not too ashamed to admit it. So we've got these new kind of buff crocs, and the thing with them, like their gimmick, I guess, is that they, for lack of a better term, the only way you can kill them is by smacking them with a barrel. All these other enemies, if you use DK and you land on them, they take critical damage and they die, because he is a big boy. But with, oh geez, I forgot about that. With these particular enemies in general, you can only defeat them with a barrel. So this kind of forces the player to be a little bit more mindful of what's coming down the track, and it also forces them to be more careful with the barrels that they have and stuff, you know, and so it's strangely enough a gimmick that works, you know. As you can see as Diddy, I couldn't go and bounce off of those fatter crocs, but as DK, since I'm bigger, I can literally go bounce off of them, be done with it. Same thing with the armadillo, but with these crocs in general, it's just nothing but a barrel will take them out. So it kind of gives you a certain amount of tension throughout this level, because, you know, it's a new enemy. You know that the enemy's probably going to be popping up in the future. You know, so you literally are forced to think about it, I feel. Like, you're forced to literally sit back and be like, okay, you know, I'm going to have this enemy coming up. I highly doubt that this is going to be the only area that this enemy is in. So you literally are forced to sit there and, you know, question every single barrel that you run across. And on one end, it's like really, really nice, but on the other end, not so much. You know, because it has like that level of tension there. So right here, the video kind of freaked out for some reason. I don't really know what caused it. After checking it, I went ahead and I started up the level again. And I later found out, so I use OpenEmu to capture all my footage and stuff. I don't have gear needed to use the classic console itself on the capture gear, but it was a pain, I think. You know, like there was a lot of configuring to do, and it was just a hell of a pain. So what I basically was doing was using OpenEmu, as well as going and using a Nintendo Switch pad to actually go and play these games with. So the Pro Controller has, since it's Bluetooth, it has like this really weird kind of delay with it, which I'm pretty sure is from Bluetooth. But I didn't know that OpenEmu will auto-configure a controller for you. So when I had it identified as a Nintendo Switch Pro Controller, it had pretty much configured everything, and it was actually really, really nice. I use a Sega pad for all of the Sega games that I have, but I haven't like found an SNES pad that I'm really a huge fan of yet for OpenEmu. So I found out that the reason why the video glitched out like that is because I have huge ass bony hands. And as a consequence of that, they have a tendency to overlap on top of the controller where L1 and R1 and ZL and ZR are. And so what had happened was, as I was playing, my fingers had overlapped, and I had accidentally pressed the fast forward button. And so that's why everything was all sped up and stuff. I had just straight up screwed up. But to be fair, I didn't actually know that that was actually configured. I typically don't use rewind or fast forward, or I'll use quick save if I'm playing like a really, really long game and stuff, and, you know, I'm sitting there and, you know, getting tired. But no, I think for platform perils, I was like starting to get exhausted in general, because I had been playing for like a really, really long time, and I was just kind of sitting there and kind of struggling with it after a while, because I was like starting to get a headache essentially from it. And so I just kind of sat there and I just kind of kept pushing. Essentially just kind of kept pushing and pushing and pushing. So I didn't really... I think it's kind of funny how they have like all these naughties on these like little tiny platforms. But man, I hated it because it just felt like a death trap. No matter what I was doing, just wasn't good enough kind of feeling, you know. So right here I had, again, paid attention to my phone because I'm not used to doing long plays, essentially. And Had to stop and check it for a minute, you know, and then it's like bouncing from platform to platform, you know, using these poor naughties as a launch pad, essentially. And so we start to see more of these buff gators, essentially, you know, and like again, it puts a lot of stress because normally when you get a barrel, you know, you throw it instantly if you're not looking for a secret area. And I think that with these buff gators, you know, they kind of go and they kind of train you to not have that habit anymore, because now you have to be tactical, you know, with your barrels and stuff. And it's actually kind of nice that this late in the game they were shaking things up and trying to go and trying to do it better and stuff. It was just really nice. So for Nikki's revenge, it's nothing really special, I personally think. Like, he just goes and he spits out nuts a little bit faster, and like that's pretty much it for like the entire duration of this particular boss fight. Like, he's not really special or anything. He's just kind of like a rehash, and you know, probably saved on development time and stuff and everything else. I mean, to be fair, a lot of games from this era had used a lot of rehashed bosses, so it wasn't too horrible. I kind of expected it, actually. I expected it a lot. So now we're moving on to the final boss of the game. This boss is not hard. The reason why I kind of struggled with it is because all of these sound effects that he typically would be making, I wasn't able to hear because my beginning recordings didn't have any output through the TV. So basically, every single time he throws the crown, I have to literally go and be like, oh man, you know, when is it hitting? Because the timing for this boss fight is a little bit weird. So he goes, he throws the crown again, and it would be a little bit easier if this game was widescreen, but again, with 4:3 aspect ratio, it's kind of hard, you know, because of where the Kongs are at. The game itself doesn't really do a super amazing job with camera tracking at times. And you see that, you know, with like how hard it tries to like keep up with everything. So with these cannonballs here, the interesting thing about them is there's a little bit of an auditory delay compared to when they show up. So you'll hear them go off before you actually see them. So normally this would tell you, oh hey, one's coming. Same thing with K. Rool's jumps and stuff. Like for a lot of this boss fight, you literally have to sit down and be like, okay, you know, I gotta listen for what's coming. But when you have no audio whatsoever, you're forced to literally sit here and be like, okay, I've got to be quicker on the draw. And so for a lot of this fight, it was a lot of muscle memory and stuff. I was able to literally just go and be like, okay, you know, this is it, this is where we're at, this is what we're doing, yada yada yada. But it gets more difficult when you can't really see the move coming. So it was really, for me at least, it was a hell of a thing. I knew that I was going to be fighting with this particular boss and struggling a fair bit, because as soon as I realized that for these beginning recordings that I wasn't going to be able to have any sort of audio, I knew that it was going to be a struggle boss. And with K. Rool being like a multi-tier boss and stuff, he's just really, really hard to actually go and fight against. He is not the hardest boss in the game. I don't really view any of these bosses as particularly hard. But without audio, he becomes very, very tough. You almost, just to make sure that you know what's coming, you almost have to stay on top of his ass a little bit, which really, it can be hazardous in its own right. Too close, you get hit by a crown. Not close enough, you don't see the crown coming. So you kind of have to exist in this, kind of this weird little area, I guess. So right about here is where I started getting used to the pattern of like how he jumps and stuff again, and sometimes you just need a little bit of a refresher course to actually remember how to fight something. And then with the last time of me playing this game being well over 15 years ago, I was like, okay, you know, I gotta just break back in, essentially. So, you know, it's just stuff you gotta get used to, and then, you know, I started following the trail of the cannonballs a little bit more easily and getting ready to jump the crown a little bit more easily and stuff. And the only thing that really kind of continued to give me an enormous amount of bullshit towards the end was actually how he jumps. And that's because I'd been so far out of practice that I was like, okay, I seriously just don't remember this. And he's back for round 3. And he's jumping, and hopping, and throwing. He's so damn fast, you know, and like the best way to literally get away from him is to roll under him. So you can just go and roll right under him, and then he does like all these little baby hops towards the left, and so you go, you jump on him, you beat him, and it's over. You know, like, I really, all these Donkey Kong games are normally, like, really, really fun, but I find them to be, rather difficult to sit there and play at times and stuff, but, yeah, you know, it can be done. We have deaf people going and doing runs of this game. We have the blind, like me, going and doing runs of this game. These games are very much so something that you can actually go and beat if you put in the time, the effort, and the dedication to learning and memorizing patterns and identifying timers and things like that. It's not super horrible. I actually, at this point, I had made up my mind that I was going to go and do the entire trilogy for DKC. And so I went ahead and I followed through with it and stuff. There are going to be other commentary versions of 2 and 3. 3 has not been uploaded yet because 3 is long and it's going to take a while to upload to YouTube, and the other games are going to get commentary too. I know that at the time of recording this, I had just released my playthrough of Resident Evil Survivor, which we're going to be working on commentary for next. So with that thought in mind, we are going to go ahead, and this is going to be the end of the commentary right here. We're at the credits. Everything looks good, sounds good, feels good. I wanted to thank everybody for stopping by. Thank you for watching my long plays and stuff. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and until next time.